Well, hello everyone. How are you guys doing? Welcome to another episode of God's Gift Through His Word. I'm super excited to be with you guys today. You guys know I have been talking about getting more independent artists back because I stopped doing it. But today I have a special and amazing guest. I'm going to let him introduce himself to you. Welcome, my special guest. Can you please introduce yourself to everyone?
I definitely can. Hey, my name is Rene Benton, and I'm thrilled to be on the show.
Yay! So I am excited to talk to you because I read so much about you and my head is just exploding. So I'm just gonna stay to the little questions that I have, and then if the spirit moves and we go somewhere else, it's fine. But I did want to start out with, because I hear like you know how to shred a guitar very well. I was like, how did you get started in music?
Well, I started playing guitar technically by accident when I was
Oh,
about 6 or 7 years old. For Christmas, my parents got me a guitar and a drum set for Christmas, and I started out being a drummer. My little brother was crawling at the time, and his head went into the bass drum, and that was the end of my drumming career because it was
oh,
toy drums. You couldn't replace the head or anything,
oh.
and I think I started crying like kids do, and I think my dad said, "Well, you got a guitar in your hand. You got a guitar in your hand. Just start playing." And so that was, it started from there. And I never had any quote unquote formal lessons. I learned from watching. I forget what the technical name is for it, but I learned through watching as opposed to reading. And I would just watch people on TV. And I was growing up watching Hee Haw, and that's why Roy Clark's one of my influences. I know some people don't know what I'm talking about, but he was the only guitar player that I could see on TV every week, and I knew him by name. And I would just watch his hands, and I would mimic what he did as far as the actions go. That started the whole thing. It was definitely a gift, and it just took off from there. I started learning music from the radio on records that my parents or siblings had, and then one thing led to another. So that's where it all started. That's the genesis of it all.
Wow, I'm just listening to that. That's quite a story from you. Like, just take that and just do it, and you have just done so much monumental things. And I was just like, I know some of the songs and things that I've heard, and you've been a part of those things, and I think I've seen some interviews of you doing and talking to other people, and I know you've talked about your faith a little bit. Is that really important to you as you're doing your music, or that really doesn't really come into play, and how do you kind of reconcile the two together?
Well, I dislike when people say, "Well, my faith is very important to me." I'm not going to start it there. I'm going to start it here. Living in America, there's two types of Christians. You have what you
Mm,
call cultural Christians, then you have actual followers of Christ.
mm,
Cultural Christians are folks that, for lack of a better term, they just say they're a Christian because they don't know what else to say.
mm,
Maybe they grew up a certain way, or maybe they grew up in a certain neighborhood, or their grandmother, or grandfather, their mom and daddy, that whole thing, and that's a cultural Christian, right? In other
right.
words, they say it, but there's no fruit there,
Mm,
right?
right.
I didn't necessarily grow up a church kid, which shocks people. I didn't necessarily grow up a church kid. I did a couple of drive-bys. In other words, went to church a couple times, uh, and I got baptized at probably 10 or 11 years old because my parents probably knew I was up to no good, but that didn't cure anything. And so I didn't have a chance to be a cultural Christian.
Mm,
With that being said, when you're not a cultural Christian, you have more questions. And so questions you should drive a person to study. And so I started studying at a very, very young age. And I never really talked about this publicly, but here we go. So I grew up in Omaha, Nebraska. Omaha, Nebraska, as you may or may not know, is birthplace of Malcolm X.
mm,
So the first quote unquote overall dominant, I like to use the word dominant faith I was exposed to was Islam. I was not a Muslim or anything, neither was anybody in my family. But these were the guys that you saw on the street corners. I never saw Christians on street corners
Mm.
spreading gospel. I never saw that. So I would see these guys slinging bean pies with bow ties, yelling at the top of their lungs, and they said this one thing, and I'm pretty sure you heard this in your life. Here we go. Christianity is a white man's religion,
Oh, yes.
right? And so
Yes.
I said, what does that even mean? I was maybe 12 years old. What does that even mean? And so I said, what's it? What? And so I've always been enamored with geography and things of that nature. And I, as a kid, you just hear stories of Jesus, Nazareth, and all this stuff. And I love geography. And so I was looking on the map and said, wait a minute. This is me 11, 12 years old. I said, I don't think he's white. He couldn't be white. Because I used to love reading National Geographic.
Mm.
And I would see people from different places. That's probably how I ended up traveling to over 70 countries. I was enamored with seeing stuff. So I said, I don't think they're right when they're saying that whole thing. And that started the whole journey of me just studying, right? Mm. So it started with studying very innocently where Jesus was from. It started there. I didn't even get to the resurrection stuff. That was way beyond my understanding as a kid anyway. Yeah. But I started with the geography part of it. Then I worked my way outward from there. In that, seeing these guys on the street corners all the time, they would pass out different stuff. And from there, I started learning Arabic. Mm. Just a little bit, just enough to be dangerous. I'm reading Bible, and I just wanted to know. And that's when I said, oh, those guys don't know what they're talking about. And I went from there. and so I said all that to say this. I believe that if you say you're a Christian or follow Christ, I think you have to study a bit more. You just the worst thing you can say to me, someone says, well, why are you a Christian? Well, I was on drugs and it worked for me, or I grew up that way. Those are the lamest excuses. I said, no, you should lead with historic things. Go with history, right? What over 5,200 Greek manuscripts, but then we have the Septuagint. And start there, and then lead your way up. That was my journey. And so, because there comes a time where you're going to have to quote unquote defend your faith, so to speak.
Right.
So when someone asks you, well, why Jesus? Why this? You have to say something. Not just going to change people, but you have to say something there. So to answer your question in a very roundabout way, it's not how important following Christ is to me. It is the most important thing to me, and it affects every realm of my life. It took me a long time to get here, but I'm here. You never perfect it, right? Every day you're trying to perfect it, but it took years to get there because I was just one of those people who studied. Not that I was a skeptic per se, and not that I wanted to be anything else. I just wanted to know why I sort of believed what I believed. Right. I did not want to be a cultural Christian. That bugs me, and that permeates all of, especially America. Very much a lot of cultural Christians, and unfortunately, you see that a lot in the entertainment industry. You see it a lot at award shows. You see it a lot. You see it a lot at sporting events. Mm-hmm. Because a lot of times when people win, they'll say, well, first off, I want to thank God. And I said, I don't think you're talking the God you're talking about, because I don't think this is aligning here. But that's what I'm talking about, cultural Christian. I didn't say anyone in particular. I'm just saying that's the trap I didn't want to be in. Yeah. And it took me years I just didn't want to be part of that. So it's everything to me. Faith, following Christ is everything to me. And every decision I make is built around that wanting to please the Father and the Son and being led by this Holy Spirit. So it's everything to me.
Ooh, I love that. Now I think I have to go back and reword my question.
Your question is fine. I just had to let you know.
Hey, I'm glad, because because I needed to hear that, and that's that you making the very very distinctive. This is a line, and we have those people that want to play the neutral. I don't, I'm in the middle. You can't really straddle the fence. So you have this. I'm not straddling the fence. I know what I believe. I'm hot over here. I'm not cold. I'm not in the middle. I know what I know, and I don't have to have anybody to tell me what I don't know because I know, and I prove you wrong. So I'm glad to hear about that. And sometimes I wonder, like, okay, am I going to step on toes when I ask this question? And people are like, how dare you ask me that? Like, oh, yes, you said you're a believer, so I just thought I could.
No toe stepping. You're fine with me.
Yeah,
I
okay,
wear steel toe boots anyway, so you're good. You're just fine.
hey, I'm glad because I was like, okay, you know what podcast this is, so I'm gonna ask at least one question.
Please,
I'm
please
assuming
do.
you know where you're coming to, so
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, well, I just thank you for sharing that because, like you just said, and it's so good to know that the things that you do, and you can hear it because you've been gifted. The Lord is gifting you a gift. And sometimes people take those gifts that they have been given and they use it for whatever they want to use it for instead of giving it back to Him and then using it for other things to glorify the Lord and edify the body of Christ. But when you talk about how you everything that's part of your life, it's just there. So it's not like it's never part. It's not like it's compartmentalized. It's everything. It's all immersed. So I'm just I'm excited to hear about that because I just love that. I love when I hear people say it's all everything. This is not I just do it on Sunday, I take it off and I do it when I feel like it. No, this is me. This is a lifestyle. This is not a let's do it sometime. So I just got stuck there because I'm like, I love this. This is a great question.
You're fine. You're fine. Fire away. So,
Yeah, well, when you're talking about that, because I was listening, like I said, I was listening to your music and I was listening because I said, I wanted to know about some of your music because you're new to me and you've been around for a gazillion years. I think because of your history, I was like, oh my gosh, where have I been? Felt like I've been under a rock.
you're fine.
But but when I heard some songs, there were two that struck me when I was listening to them. And the first one was Halo or Horns.
Halo or the horns.
Halo or the Horns, that one. Yes.
Yeah.
Halo or the Horns. And I was wondering about that one before I asked about the song. How did you come to create that one? Because I listened, I was like, ooh, that one sounds really good.
Yeah. So Halo or the Horns, it's on the new live record, but that was originally recorded in 1996, 97.
Oh, wow.
From the album Expressions. This is my third record. Expressions, that whole record, I guess you could say it was faith-based, but it was in a different way. I have a song on there called Save Me. I have a song called Hollywood Jesus. And then we have Halo or the Horns.
Mm-hmm.
Halo of the Horns, where that song comes from, the concept, I should say, was there's a duality there. Not to get too theoretic musically, but there's a duality in harmonies, and it's a kind of a dissonant sounding harmony there. That's on purpose. That's evil versus holy, and the whole song is that way. And there is a lot of ebb and flow, and it is literally it's a struggle. What the song signifies actually is a spiritual struggle that every believer goes through.
Mm.
And I wrote the whole thing with that in mind. It's so much going on there. It's just literally, yeah, it's pretty much a spiritual battle song in instrumental form. That's why the notes pull apart. That's why it's a weird harmony there. That's why there's this really calm part right in the middle of it all.
Mm-hmm.
And then it comes out and it ends in a victorious way. Because good's always going to win. And so that's what motivated that song in particular back in the 90s. That's it.
Wow.
A spiritual battle in instrumental form is the best way I can describe it.
Well, I listen, now that you have explained to me about that particular song, I guess that's what I was hearing because it's like, oh, it sounds intense, but then there were parts of like, it sounds not intense, but maybe I'm missing something. Maybe my hearing's off. But after you explained it to me, that's why I asked. I was like, I gotta ask him about this particular song because the other ones, okay, they're beautiful, but for this is something. It's something struck me and I guess that when you did that, because you said all believers, so it's striking me as a believer, like this song is very unique and it's doing something for me, and I'm able to ask you about it. So I thank you for sharing it because you can hear the fight, and like you just said, like that's true because we are going through that spiritual warfare and those battles on a daily basis. It's the flesh against the spirit all the time, and it's always warring. So you can hear that war. You can hear that battle. So I was like, woo, no wonder. I was like, okay, that was intentional.
Yeah, very, very intentional. All the instrumentation, it opens up with an organ. Organ is synonymous with church.
Yeah.
So all that is in there. It's all that. But yeah, that's it.
That's very full. I thank you for sharing me. So I wanted to ask you about this one. Now, correct me if I say if I say the name of your song incorrectly.
You're fine.
Love is Pain. Did I write that down wrong, or is that?
You got it right. You got it.
I got this one right. Okay,
you
wait
got
for
that
me.
one right. Yeah, love is pain was again that's from 96, 97, but we recorded live recently. That song was part fantasy, part reality. Here it is. So a guy I knew went through a divorce. Now, we know what scripture says about divorce, right? There's only 2 or 3 ways out of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in his case, it was one of the 3. His wife was unfaithful to him. But he tried to work it out. We would talk. I was working on the record at the time, and we would talk, and he would just say various things. Not that I was trying to put his business out there, but I was trying to come up with some lyrics that kind of fit the music I was working on. And he was telling me about all the thoughts that he had. He was telling me about how it felt for him. And ultimately, he didn't want to get divorced. He wanted to work through it. But ultimately, he had to let it go because it was just too much, right?
Yeah.
Which was okay, right? That happened. And just under those circumstances, it's okay. And so he would just tell me what was going on in his head. And I said, man, that sounds horrible. And I said, because I've never knew a love like that at that point in life, especially if you build up this life with this person and a woman. Like normally it's guys that mess stuff up. Truth be told. So when a woman does it, it flips everything around. The world is literally upside down at that point. And so he would talk to me and just say these various things. And that's where that whole song comes from. My love is pain, a bloody Valentine, no sun, just black rain. Joy is no friend of mine. A castrated feeling, a feeling I cannot hide. No means of concealing a dismal and tearing ride.
That's intense.
That's intense.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, gosh, just hearing you read it.
Yeah.
I had to pause for a minute because I don't know. I think when I hear it, it just causes me to think about when people go through something like that. It's like ripping them apart.
Yes,
and
yeah, it is.
You can't just put it to like, oh, okay, this is everybody goes through this, but it's painful and it hurts and it's like destroying them from the inside. And there's nothing that can, kind of there's no Band-Aid for that. That's really the whole healing process that has to sometimes takes years. But when you're sharing that, I was like, oh my gosh, that it just has a different kind of feel for that. And what in the beginning of the song, that the person, it sounds like somebody's getting whipped or
Somebody's
something.
getting whipped. Yes, that's a sample. That is the incredible Angelo Moore from a group called Fishbone. I had to clear that sample.
Oh,
Yeah, because I wanted to set the tone,
oh,
and
okay.
it sets the tone. You said I don't know what else is coming after this, but I'm here for it because you don't know what's
Yeah.
happening after that. You said what? You said what is going on here? Because it comes out of nowhere, right? It kind of
Yeah.
it starts out low, and then it gets a little louder, and then all the music comes in, and yeah, that gets everybody. Because I many moons ago, I went to this seminar. It was called New South Music Seminar. It was in Atlanta, and the people that were there, they were record label executives, and they said, "You have 3 seconds to grab the attention of the common person. Make the first 3 seconds of your song the most exciting." And that's why think of any quote unquote hit record you could think of. The first 3 seconds of that song is so dynamic. It wants you to it makes you hang around for the next 3 seconds.
Right.
And the next three. Just think any song, any of your favorite songs, just right now in your head. Think of the first 3 seconds. 1,000, 1,000, 3. What happens in that first 3 seconds?
You ever been caught? You've been hooked.
You got you. It got you. So I took that because at the time I was writing these really long opuses. It took a long time to get to the point, and they very good constructive criticism said, "Hey, you've got some good stuff here, but you just have to get to it sooner." And I said, "Oh, okay," and I went from there. And I would tell other people, I said, "You got 3 seconds to be interesting. That's all you have.
Mm.
That's all you have. That's all you have." And I took that. So that song, that first 3 seconds, it gets everyone's attention. It has yet to not get a person's attention. Yes. So that's where that comes from. But yeah, so this song is essentially about a guy telling me about his wife being unfaithful and him trying to work through it, but ultimately he couldn't.
Man, Renee, just man, I that song you have just talked about, you are right. When I first heard it, I was like, oh my gosh, what is happening to that person? He's getting whipped. I mean, and then when I listened to the song, I was like, is it saying this person is whipped in love and they can't get out of it? Are you whipped because love is painful because you're so much? And then when I listened, it's like, oh, that's not anything.
Yeah.
That's not anything I thought.
And obviously, love is pain is such an oxymoron because where there's love, there's no pain anyway. But
Right.
I had to put it together, and it's very poetic in nature. There's not a lot of rhymes in there. It's not traditional. It's closer to a poem than it is to a song. But it's all the elements are there. So thanks for listening. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I got to come in here and know something about your music. Like, hey, so let me interview you about what songs you wrote, what I write. I don't know. Like, what? You don't even know. You haven't even listened to one, not even one. It would do you justice to ask me one. Like, I haven't listened to anything. Like, just tell me about your life. Like, okay, I never want to talk to her ever again. She didn't even listen to one song. She couldn't even give me one listen, not even one. So, I would be doing you a disservice, sir. So.
I really appreciate it.
So yeah, I did spend some time listening to the other ones, but then I just nailed down a couple of the ones that I thought sounded really good to me when I was listening. And when you shared for both of those songs, I was like, yeah, those two. When you share and you explain about both of them, I was like, I can see why. Especially the first one, I was like, I could hear the difference between the pull, and then I could hear this one. Someone's really going through it, and they're not having a good time. So I mean, I just appreciate you just sharing about those songs because when I'm thinking about artists, it's like you guys have so much creativity and the inspiration. So when you're making these songs, and I know you had your inspiration for the two, where do you draw your inspiration from? I know you could be drawing from the Holy Spirit. That would be because it's immersive. Is there anything else that draws you, like besides life experiences, that kind of draw you to do some of the music that you do?
Well, first things first, I'm not a prolific songwriter. I just can't crank out billions and billions of songs. So
Oh,
um, so it takes me forever to craft a song. With that being said, the inspiration normally for me, it usually comes when I'm doing something non-musical.
Mm.
I'll just have a melody pop into my head, and I'm what you would call a regressive songwriter, meaning maybe something I heard from childhood somehow got into my brain. I start writing, but I don't know where the idea comes from until I do my own research and say, oh, well, I got this part from here. I got this part from here. I got this part from here. And that's how I came with the song idea. So the inspiration, just as I said, it comes normally when I'm doing something non musical.
Mm.
And chances are it's coming from some deep set memory from the 1900s or something.
Oh wow. You that far, huh?
Yeah. Yeah.
Had to go back a ways to go grab the
go go
inspiration.
go back. Yeah, but I don't know where it's coming from. It's just coming into my brain, and then I have to say, where's this idea? It sounds familiar. Oh, I heard this on a school bus when I was in the seventh grade. That's where this little part comes from. So it's like that. It's like that.
Oh, but that's I mean, that's kind of cool though, actually,
Yeah.
because you know, it's not like a regular place or a regular person that says, "Well, I go sit down at the coffee shop and then I hear something like, oh, I'm
No,
gonna write down my lyrics right here and boom, I got it."
no.
Because that's unique, and it'll be unique and very variations of where you're pulling from your inspiration. So you can't just say it's all from one place. It comes where it comes, and it's just like the Holy Spirit. You can't tell the Holy Spirit where to go because it'll blow and he will do what he's gonna do. You
Yeah,
can't time it. So
definitely.
so I mean that's a beautiful thing. So that's okay. I always want to ask because you never know what it is that spikes and sparks creatives that
Yeah.
have so much gifting. It's like, so I wonder where they drive from, and they keep bringing out music and keep finding ways to make new music, new stuff never been heard before. You know, so I was glad to ask you about that. And while you're talking about the inspiration, what helps you while we're talking about inspiration? What helps you to keep going and pushing forward and say, you know, I'm going to keep doing this music because that's me, that's a thing, and I love doing it. What keeps you just going and saying, I'm done with music?
Well, back to your previous question, inspiration comes from me very naturally. It's not forced.
Mm,
So I've never felt a need to force a song or anything like that. So it just flows. And if it's there, it's there. If it's not, it's not.
mm.
As far as continuing into it, um, I never set out to be a musician. So
Oh,
I just became one very organically. I
oh,
never, it was people around me who said, maybe you need to do something musically. I never. I mean, I I kind of just grew up playing the guitar, kind of playing in my neighborhood and all this good stuff there. But I never had any aspirations of taking it anywhere beyond that.
oh.
And I went. You probably read I was in the Marines. I went into the Marine Corps. Musicians don't go in the Marines, right? That's just not anything. And the Marines, unlike other branches, I would play my guitar every day when I was a kid, just because. Except one day, my mom said, "Can you give it a rest one day?" So I would play my guitar at least 6 days a week, just out of habit, just doing sports and all this stuff as kids do. When I went in boot camp, it's 3 months long. I didn't touch a guitar for 3 months. That's the longest I'd never touched a guitar since I was 6 years old.
Mm.
I got out of the Marine Corps. I'm sorry, I got out of boot camp, and a buddy of mine who was holding a guitar for me. I don't know why I let him do that. I came back. I said, "Hey man, where's my guitar?" He says, "Man, I don't know." I said, you don't know, you don't, you don't know." And it took me over 30 something years. I said, "Man, what really happened to my guitar?" I said, "Man, I let somebody borrow it, man. And I
Oh
don't know what
no.
happened after that." So I went 3 months and 3 years without owning my own guitar.
Oh no.
I had no guitar. I didn't get a guitar until maybe 3 years into my enlistment. And so, in between that time, if I wanted to play guitar, I would either go to a music store that was somewhere off base, way out there, or I'd go to a pawn shop, wherever I could. I just tap on a guitar for a few seconds, and I would leave. So
Mm.
I did all of that, and so I had to play. I never felt as if I was playing catch up, but in essence, I was. So I know of no professional guitar player who went that long without touching the guitar. I don't know of any.
Mm.
And so I played catch up my entire life,
Wow.
musically, my entire life, because I never got that time back. But I didn't feel as if I was playing catch up. And so I guess I was. And so every musical move I had made, I had to make these really large leaps and bounds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to answer your question, what keeps me going is just one step at a time and having a genuine love for it. I tell people all the time, don't talk to me anything about what you love until you do it for free.
Mm.
You can't tell me you love your this, your that, things you do with no, shall we say, expectation of compensation.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what you love. That's what you
Mm.
love. So that's it. It's just a genuine love for it.
Mm.
Genuine love for it. Just a genuine love for it. Just I feel guilty if I can't touch a guitar at least once a day. I got the guitar. It's not probably out of the camera shot, but I feel I just I just because it's an intimate connection there, and I just love it. I just love guitar. I just love the sound of it. I love music, um, and that's it. It's the love for it that keeps you going.
Mm.
It's not now the other things that come with the love. That can be groovy too, but ultimately, it's just the love for it. It's a safe place. Not to sound all new agey or anything like that, because I hate when people talk like that. But when I say safe place, I'm meaning that it every time I pick up a guitar, it reverts me back to childhood.
Mm.
It's a very innocent thing there. What even picking the guitar up, I have no expectations of compensation. I do this just because. So that's what keeps me going. And whatever the byproduct is of that, I'm very thankful for it.
Mm. I love that. 'Cause I love all the things that you just said because that shows there's the passion there, and you're not doing it all of a sudden like, okay, I'm gonna do this music and I'm gonna get paid big bags. I'm gonna stack up some racks. This is what's going down for me. So when you hear that stuff, when you hear and you know those people out there that like do that, when I make this song, I'm gonna make moolah, and that's just what it is. But when you're talking about it, it is that love, that passion, and that's why you can hear all the different things in your music because it's so intentional. And when you were sharing with me about the two songs, everything that you have done in your music is intentional. It's not like a misstep. Oh, I stumbled along this and slapped it in there, and then I figured out. Oh, but you didn't do that. It's intentional with a love and passion, with intentionality behind everything that you're doing. And I believe that as 100% too. If you can do something that you love and not expect anybody to pay you for, you do it for free for the rest of your life, then you found your calling. You found what you need to be doing. You found what it is, and you just keep doing that. And like you said, whatever happens, whatever the outcome is, and whatever if monetary comes from it or something else comes from it, well, wonderful. That's a bonus. But
Yeah,
you're doing what you love. So it's not like, oh, I was expecting this. It's just coming because that's your gifting and that's your love, and you're doing it because of the passion, and you're just doing it. So I just love that. That warms my little heart right there. I was like, yes. I resonate with that a lot. So when you're doing music, and I don't know how many people you come across because you've toured the world. So if you ever run into people, and I'm sure you have, that ever want to jump into doing music, how do you advise them if they're thinking about, well, I'd like to, and you're very versed in music and you have your own story. How do you advise them to move into that or not to move into that?
well, if I were to give advice, so I'll rewind the tape a little bit. If you're trying to get into music for money, don't do that. Just don't do it. That's not going to work for you, right?
Yeah,
Don't do that.
don't do that.
Um, yeah, don't do that. Don't get into it for that. But if music becomes your livelihood, okay, there is money involved, but don't get into it for that,
Mm.
because that means that if the money stops, you'll stop.
Oh yeah.
And
True.
there's so many people that just stop playing, which I could never imagine stop playing unless I was physically unable to do so.
Hmm.
So the first thing I say, don't get into it for money. and don't get into it for fame.
Uh,
And we live right now, current day. Most people who are in it, they're in it for money or fame.
right.
Most people, not all, okay, but most are. Let me tell you something. I didn't even know you could get paid for doing music. That's how naive I was.
Oh,
I thought I thought when I would see musicians on TV, I thought they were like my dad. I thought that was just something they did, then they went back to their jobs. On, when I would see guys on American Bandstand or Soul Train, I thought they must work like my dad because I
so they're
that
moonlighting.
that is how innocent I was with it. And it took, I wanted to say, oh my goodness, I had to be in the seventh grade. And one of my childhood friends, he's the one that taught me into moving to Atlanta, which is one of the best things I ever did. That started my whole musical journey. We played a gig at some place we shouldn't have been playing. And at the end of the night, he puts money in my hand. I said, "What is this for?" He says, "This is how much we got paid." I said, "Paid for what?" He said, "For playing music." I said, "They pay you for playing music?" I was in the seventh grade. I didn't know that people got paid for playing music. I just thought it was something you did. That was my attitude. So having that attitude going into it, obviously, I was very innocent with all of that. And so I would advise folks, don't get into it for money, don't get into it for fame.
Yeah.
Don't let that be your driving force. Don't take on this, I'm gonna save my family through doing this. No, don't do it. First off, have a passion for doing it. Have a genuine passion.
Mhm.
Take the pressure off yourself. Uh, the next thing is learn your craft as best you can, because music is a practice. You're never going to know it completely. Learn it as best you can. Um, Study the people who influence you. Know know who influenced them. Be a triple threat if you can, meaning don't just be a guy that just plays guitar. Be a guy that plays guitar and sings. Be a guy that
Mm,
plays guitar, sings, and dances.
mm.
Be a guy that plays, sings, dances, and knows how to arrange music. Be an asset to whomever it is that you want to be involved with. Um, be on time,
Mm.
because musicians are notorious for being late. I feel horrible
Oh.
when I'm late for anything. Musicians are horrible for that. Um, Take care of your body.
Mm.
We have lost so many musicians who didn't take care of their bodies, and they could have lived much longer
Mm.
than what they did. Take care of your body as best you can, um, and if live a clean lifestyle. The cleaner the lifestyle you live, the more people trust you.
Mm.
That's what I found out. And um, in a music environment, um, you've heard all the horror stories over time about very famous people dying from drug overdose or
Right.
alcohol and all this stuff.
Mhm.
The problem is this: you have to know who you are, and I would tell this person this: know who you are before you get involved with the music industry, or you'll
Mm.
become part of the music industry, and
Mm.
you don't want to do that. Know who you are, because you're going to be in an environment where you'll never have to pay for drugs and you'll never have to pay for alcohol, because people will offer it to you for free.
Mm.
I've never touched alcohol. I never did drugs thing. That just wasn't my thing because I was mostly an athlete. But um, not saying that as patting myself on the back, but I'm saying that was one of the things that's why people would trust me so much. They say, "Oh, he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Let him hold the money." so 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 it let him have the car. Let him, and people would trust me because of living a clean lifestyle. And
Mhm.
and I think that you have to know who you are, because when all these things come your way, you will fall to them if you don't know who you are.
Mm.
And that would be it. And if you're trying to don't set your sights on trying to be a star, because star spelled backwards is rats, and you never want to be a rat.
Mm.
Set your goals on just being part of a team, being part of a unit. Don't be so obsessed with being a solo guy. I became solo clearly by mistake. It was nothing I ever set out to do. Never,
Yeah.
never, ever, ever. No, I'm more comfortable with being in the back, playing guitar, wearing all black. I'm more comfortable there than I am with what I have to deal with now. So I'm more comfortable there because I never set out to be. I never wanted to be the centerpiece. I never wanted to be the focal point of anything. Never. And it was just something that morphed into going down the solo road the times I have been down. But it was never an intent. Um, it started out innocently enough um, in the 90s before the internet,
Mm.
which is very important. Before the internet, if you were a musician and you were at a local level and you wanted to know what else was out there, there was only really one way to do it. That's when you would have to create a demo tape. And you would take that demo tape and you would send it to a record company and you would hope you would hear from them. Me, I was a little different. I did that, but I wanted to hear from them, not necessarily look for a record contract. I just wanted to make sure I was good enough to get one. Because
Mm.
we didn't have the internet. You couldn't get 1,000 likes for
Yeah.
instant confidence. It didn't exist. So that was the only way you could build true confidence is when you heard from a record label. And so that's what I did. And I started hearing from record labels just since the early 90s.
Mm.
And I said, oh, if I'm okay, I'm good enough to get one. I was happy with that. I didn't even want to pursue it beyond that. But as fate would have it, I'd be on the road with some band. I'd be at some music store, and someone would say, "Hey, do you have your own music?" And I say, "Yeah, I kind of have some." And then they would go, "Hey, I have an entertainment attorney," and they'd introduce me to an entertainment attorney, and the entertainment attorney would say, "Hey, you need to record this music," and I re-record it with a band, and then he would try and shop me to these different record companies and all this stuff there. So with me, everything's just been very organic, but I never really pursued it like that. It just one thing led to another. Yeah.
Mm. Well, since you kind of opened the door, I'm just gonna walk right in just a little bit. So, how do you like being a solo artist?
Um, I got to make sure I word this right. It's not. I'm very thankful that people listen to me,
Hmm.
but I don't think I'll ever really get used to the idea of being a solo artist. Never. I don't think I'll ever really be 100% used to that
Mm.
um, because I've spent most of my life not being that.
Oh.
So in this vein of expression that's happening right now, I'm so thankful for it. Um, it's a very different thing. Um, I've never in 2016 I did a lot of interviews, but I've never been embraced by anybody in America.
Mm.
So all my interviews only consisted of them sending me a piece of paper, me filling it out. I did maybe one phone interview in 2016. I didn't do anything close to what I'm doing right now. And that's when I realized that, oh, when you're a solo guy, you have to do all kinds of interviews, not just the ones you're comfortable with. I was,
Mhm.
I was, because the podcast thing is very new to me. I've never really done it until 2024, 25. No
Mhm.
podcast, no nothing. And so it's a different thing. I guess to answer your question more directly, I have to get used to the idea, and the more I get used to it, probably the more I'll like it.
Yeah.
But because, as I said, some people really crave the spotlight. I was never one of those people. I never liked taking pictures
Mm.
to the point, and you could check me on this. If you went through and just checked every record I've ever put out, I never put a picture of myself on it.
Mm.
I never wanted that. It wasn't until the advent of when I started being in magazines and stuff, and they said we need pictures of you, or like, for instance, the picture you're using. I took that picture was taken in Estonia.
Oh.
Yeah, and so people would just tell me, "Hey, you need to take pictures. You need to take pictures. You need to take pictures." And then the irony of all of this is that in the '90s, I was a model.
Oh.
hmm I did print work model. And this is when during a time of modeling where men judge women and women judge men. That's
Mm.
how the industry was. The industry is very different now. You have men judging men and women judging women. If you were to pick up a magazine from about 1994, 95, look at the way the models look, and then look at how they look today, you'll see what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Translation. I'd go to try and get a gig or whatever, and it would be some woman behind a desk smoking a cigarette. This is the '90s. They were smoking doors. They were smoking doors. And a woman would just say, "Hey, you turn around. This is a woman." Say, "Turn
Wow.
around. Turn around." Take this top 3 button down shirt because this area is what sells shirts, right?
Mm.
And so the first time, this is, I kid you negative, I went and talked to some folks, and the woman tells me, she says, shave your mustache, fix your teeth, and come back and see us.
Mm.
And oh, by the way, she said, shave that hair off your chest. This is not the '80s.
Oh wow, not the 80s. Oh, oh. And during the 90s is like, we don't want that.
And so there's pictures of me. Let's fold around online. There's pictures of me before and after, right? Because there's pictures of me with facial hair. There's pictures of me with no facial hair. There's pictures of me with body hair. There's pictures of me without body hair. It's just hilarious. But they were more direct then with everything.
Mm.
They would tell you. I mean, if you set 1 foot in the door, they said, stop. You are not anything like what we're looking for at all. Very different from what they tried to do. What was that show called, Top Model or something like that? That's nothing.
Yeah.
That ain't nothing. That's not even close to the way it used to be. Because
Oh.
as I said, you had men judging women and you had women judging men.
Mm.
Right? Because that's the way the world is, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the way the world is set up. I mean, because that's just the way the world's set up. So that's the way it used to be set up. Not changed. But
Not so much. Yeah.
But saying all that, I've always hated taking pictures, and so I knew it was something I had to work on. So I somehow end up in these positions where I had to start taking pictures. I had to start being on camera and all this stuff there. So being a solo artist for me is something I'm still trying to grow into after all this time.
Mm. So when you're saying that, Rene, is that so you say you're gonna get more familiar? Do you think right now it's just unfamiliar feeling, and then eventually it will become more familiar? Like you said, you'll become more comfortable and be able to sit in it more so.
Maybe eventually.
Mm.
As I said, if I started when I got into the music industry, if that was my focus,
Yeah.
then it would be familiar for me. But when it's not your focus, it's an unfamiliar place.
Right.
It's an unfamiliar place. You wake up some days and say, okay, this feels familiar. Then, oh, this feels nothing like familiar.
Mm.
And it's just it's, at least I can only speak for myself. That's the way it has been for me since forever.
Wow.
Since forever. I recall one time going to perform, and I'm so used to taking my little bit of equipment and going to the right hand side and being out of people's way. And I was by myself at the time. I said, wait a minute. I can't be here. I have to be out front. And I had to remind myself that oh, I can't, I have to be here. That type of thing, I have to condition myself to get into. And even to this day, um, speaking to someone as wonderful as yourself, I've known Michael since 2016, and
Mm.
that was a full kind of a full, very full circle relationship that came back around. I'm very thankful for that. Um, just the whole soul thing, as I said, something maybe eventually I'll grow into it, but right now
Well,
I'm growing into
you're
it.
growing.
In all
Okay.
honesty, yes,
That sounds well. I mean, that sounds good. I mean, like you were saying. I mean, if it's unfamiliar right now, eventually it'll get
eventually,
there. But it's a process, right? It's a process. You're enjoying the ride. You're enjoying the journey. So it's a process.
absolutely,
You're not
absolutely.
in a rush. You're doing what you
Oh,
love. So it'll take its time. And you just coast to where you're supposed to go. So you just,
yes,
I love that. So I know I heard some of your stuff, which you just told me those songs were old. I didn't even know. I should have checked some of the stuff, but
this
it doesn't matter. Like that's why I'm at you because because it's your stuff. So how do I know that? So what I did want to ask you: do you have at this moment? Because maybe I know you had something because you have a whole bunch of stuff. Michael says you a whole bunch of stuff. It's like, oh, okay, I'll check it out. But do you have some new stuff? I saw Omaha. I don't know if that's old or my mind. I don't know of any projects. I don't know if that's one or that's something that's totally different.
that is the latest release. That was released November 30th of 2024. That's the new record.
Oh,
That's a baby. That's not
that's my
even 2 months
baby.
old. I mean, yeah, to live in Omaha, live in Omaha.
Okay.
I had not performed in Omaha in 37 years,
Wow.
and I just got the idea. Uh, I could say this by way of the Holy Spirit to do something that I hadn't done, and
Mm,
I think it's the only spirit led project I've had thus far. Honestly, I didn't even know why I was doing it, but then
mm,
when I did it, I said, "Oh, that's why I did this." So I recorded because I hadn't recorded anything. I hadn't performed anything in in Omaha in that long a period of time, and I took material from different records and I did it live, and in a couple of unreleased tunes that I put on there. I recorded it. I recorded the video. There's a video part of it. Then there's the audio part of it, which you've heard, and then there's also what's called Dolby Atmos. You probably heard that
okay.
name
I
someplace when you
have.
go see movies and all that stuff. So I
Right.
released it in Dolby Atmos. Also released it in vinyl. So it's just an all encompassing thing. The most interesting thing about it is that uh, it's not just me playing music. There's the audio part of it that's just the full on concert. Then there's the visual concert, and then the most important part is I conducted interviews of
Oh.
people who's lived in Omaha most of their lives, and so I started learning various things. I interviewed people who newcomers. So, for example, I have this song called East Meets West. You probably saw the title. East Meets West. Um, Essentially, to tie in with that song, I spoke with an exchange student from Miramar who had gone from Miramar to Omaha. Out of all the places I was going back and forth trying to get these interviews and stuff together, and I spoke to him what it's like to live in Omaha from his perspective. And so I speak with him, and I speak with another gentleman who had been around. He was actually my childhood barber, um, and there's some footage of him from the 1960s. It seems as if, and he's talking to it. Very famous, him talking to this particular person, and excuse me, I have a part of him talking and a child, this guy from Miramar talking, and it's kind of them seeing different perspectives as far as the United States perception of what it's like in the East, and this is very interesting. And then I have a song "Inner City Blues,"
Mhm.
and so it's kind of there's narration, interview, song, narration, interview, song for every song.
No.
That's the more interesting part. That's the part I feel very very good about. Um, I talked with a gentleman. He's a barber in Omaha. He talked about something I didn't know about. I didn't know that there were riots in the '60s in Omaha. He said, "Yeah, they burned everything down." I said, "Why did my parents tell me about this? No one told me a word." And
Wow.
so, and so then that led me into digging into more history, more history, more history, more history. And that's why it's called To Live in Omaha, Live in Omaha. And the artwork that I used is from an incident that happened in 1919,
Hmm.
when you get a chance to look at that. And then, so there's a story behind that. And so that's why it's a really a very special record for me. Um, and so that's the new stuff that's out right now. Been out since November 30th, so towards the end of the year, and now we're in the early part of the year. Still talking to wonderful people like yourself. Still promoting records, still being spun. So it's a good thing.
Well, listen, I'm so glad I did my research. I'm so glad. I felt like when you were talking, like, yes, I heard that. Yes, I saw that. Yes, I even mentioned it things. I'm like, yes, I feel so good because I know what he's talking about. And that's it. They're like, I've never even, what are you talking about? So when he says like, oh, I saw that song, I saw that one, yes, 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 and I'm just running down in my head. Yep, he mentioned it, mentioned it, mentioned. Okay, so I'm on track. I was like, I'm gonna look you up at Spotify and just go down, just have it, pick out some stuff, and I'm so glad I did that. I said Michael gave me enough time. Like here it is. I was like, okay, let me see what I can see.
Yes.
So I mean I'm so glad to even hear about that because when I saw it I was like okay well I'm asking about it maybe I'm a little bit late because I know I saw some stuff but now you're telling me it's still fresh like you said it's still fresh and new so that I'm gonna be well this is gonna do its own thing and promote it how you will and I'm gonna do my own thing and promote it how I will but definitely I'm glad to have gotten a chance to have talked to you. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna talk to him. And I was like looking at all your stuff. I was like, I can't talk to you. I can't talk to
Anybody can talk to me.
you.
I'm
Well,
just a guy.
when they read your biography, Renee, they'll probably say we can't talk to him either. I was like, you feel like me? We should all be somewhere. It's like, has he toured 70 countries, been in almost all of the states? Like, who is this guy? Well, he's this amazing man, and I was like, I get to talk to him. Like, what? Like,
No,
so
I'm just
I
a
mean,
guy.
you are so down to earth. You are just as cool, like a cucumber. And I really had a pleasure talking with you and just hearing just how you do certain things with your music. And I am just like I'm gonna be feeling so good because I like this man is you have so different ways and perspectives to go ahead and articulate the things that you do, which I just love. Even when you say I'm doing this in a roundabout way, but it gets us to where we need to get to. So roundabout or not, we're gonna take that little U-turn and we're gonna go around the circle, and then we're gonna end up right at the point where we need to be. So I enjoy the ride. So I thank you for taking me there. And so I hope that if there's another time when you're not, busy doing all of your amazing putting your work together with all your instruments and definitely you're shredding that guitar. I was like, if I could, but I can't. But if I could, I'd like to shred like I was like, ooh. I was like that because I was like, what manner of guy is this? That guitar sounds I'm like, I have to talk to him. Because like when I hear people play like that, I was like, that is what I would want to do. Now I can learn, but I don't know if I'm going to. But I'm just saying, you just the passion that you have and the gifting that you do, and just to be able to do it audibly or watch somebody do it, and then all of a sudden you just go. I was thinking about when I was going to say something, and I'm probably going to say it before we get off of here. When you say you dress in all black, I made me think of Johnny Cash. I just had to say that because that's what I thought. I was like, why he dressed in all black? You look like you go to a funeral. Maybe I am. But it
Well,
was like you're not. It's not time. That's what I thought.
well,
I
I
was like,
gotta tell you, the all black thing is that when you nowadays when you're black when you're backing up artists or whomever to keep things uniform, they just make everybody wear black.
Mm.
It used to be a time because it used to be a time where people knew how to dress and they dressed up, so people didn't worry about it so much. But then something happened along the way where a lot of musicians says, well, I'm talented enough and this, that, and the other, I don't have to worry about my clothing. And that's where everything went off the rails. So nowadays everybody just wears black. They said we're gonna take care of this. If this person be wearing aqua and fuchsia, this person be wearing pink and it be too tight and it be all kind. So they said everybody just wear black. So
we'll take care of that problem.
That's where I'm coming from with the wearing black. So
okay, I thought it was something else. Like you're inspired. Like I understand this is serious, so I'm wearing the most serious color I can find, and it's black. Like really? Like no, it's not even that. It's really a practical thing. So
I like colors, and if I do wear black, it's going to be an interesting
black.
An interesting black. For example, in that picture, I'm wearing black.
You are. It is an interesting black. But it is black.
But it's black though.
It's black though. That's right. You say you can't say nothing, but it is black.
It is black.
And I was looking for because you know what, when you said that, and I know we're supposed to be getting off here, but I wanted to tell you when you made that comment about, you know, if I have any pictures, if you go back and you scroll through, you see any pictures. When Michael sent me all your stuff, I was like, where's all those pictures? I have a very small range to work with. And I was like, he's been around for like a gazillion years. Where's all his pictures? And then you tell me I'm not a picture guy. So I was like, I'll just take the one that I think will do him justice. I'll take this one. So it's like, but you really didn't give me, and I hope that I get a chance to interview again, because when you interview again, I would hope you take some more pictures. So like, if I haven't had any other pictures, I'm going to use the same one. Like you can use the same one, but that's what I would be saying is like, I know he's going to take some more pictures. Eventually he's going to take some more. And when we have another interview, because I'm just putting that out there that we might, because you're going to do some other stuff, then he'll have more pictures and I can choose from a variety of different poses and backgrounds, you know, just putting it out there in case you want to really go ham and just wild out and just take a whole bunch of pictures. You're like, I'm going to be photogenic now, but bam, just get me.
Truth be told, there's a lot of pictures out there floating around. Michael has maybe 3 or 4 or 5 pictures of me. But that's a cool picture. So, yeah.
Hey, I wanted to get more. And I was like, I'm not going to go. I was like, I want to use, because in my head, when I'm using people's pictures, I was like, I think those are your approved pictures. Like, if I come up with something like, that wasn't approved. Like, where'd you get me with all this facial hair? I'm like, well, I found out. I wanted that one up. Like, take it down. Like, it's too late. I already put on a flyer. Like,
speaking of approved pictures, so Michael, there was some kind of magazine or whatever he got going on, and he has pictures of different artists, and he had a picture of me. Now I didn't approve this picture.
Oh no!
But it is out there. It is out there, which technically means I do approve of it, right?
Yes.
And I said, man, that picture ain't even that. I don't use that picture for publicity. But he smacked that mug right up there. I said, oh, okay. All right, man. I guess he figured it's online, so it must be approved. It wasn't promotional, man. It was just a picture. But okay.
Okay.
So, there you have it.
He said, all right. That's why I stayed in my little frame, because I said, I don't want to go get something and like, why'd you pick that old thing? And I don't want that on there. So that's why I stayed in my little wheelhouse. The little 5 he gave me, or the little 4 he gave me, I said, I will pull. Because if you see something like, where'd you get that from? Hey, that's not a good picture. So, so like you said, I'm glad I have one that you approve of with the different kind of black. And like, yeah.
Be different if you're gonna do it. So.
Exactly. Well, you know what, Rene? Are you gonna come back if we have another interview scheduled? I don't know, years down the road. Will you come back and do another interview?
Absolutely, I'd be honored to do that.
Oh, I love that. Well, I'm so glad that you will. So before I let you go, because I went past my time and I apologize, but you're so full of so much juiciness. I could just let it just go. So before before I let you go, do you want to tell people where they can find your music and find you on social media or whatever you wanted to share right now?
Yeah. Best place to reach out to me is go to renebenton.net. I say that because um, that's the only place that you can see in full the live concert video of To Live in Omaha, Live in Omaha. Also, you can, of course, get to all the various platforms and get my music, Spotify, iTunes, and all that stuff. iTunes is probably the best place if you want to listen to music in Atmos or Dolby Atmos if you want to hear it in a different format. But yeah, that's the best place. Go to renebenton.net, and I'm out on different social media platforms. You can hit me up. No one ever does, but hit me up with any questions, and I'll be sure to answer them and get back to people within 24 hours.
Oh, I love that, Renee. One more question. And this is not one of the ones that I already said to you. So
Mhm.
part of me, like, you didn't put that on there, but you said you had a vinyl. Do you get that from your website or can you get it in the store? Or where could they, if they wanted the vinyl, where could they get the vinyl and purchase that?
The vinyl is going to be for purchase at renebenton.net.
Oh,
It's not up yet, but the vinyl is out because I'm just getting all the because I had to put out everything in digital form first. Then I
okay.
had to double back and get all my physical properties. So that will be up on renebenton.net where you can get the vinyl, limited edition there, Blu-ray disc,
Mm.
USB, and uh, headphones. You get headphones. It's a
Oh,
package deal. Yeah, it's called the Benton Black Box. And you get everything, and that no one else is doing it that way, but I do it that way because I care.
oh, I love that. And that I gotta get out of here, but I just keep thinking that black. So is a black box because it's practical, uniform, or just because that's just what you do? I just want to know that part right there.
Well, usually I use the term black box because normally outside of the color, black boxes are usually where a lot of vital information is with aircraft.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I use that reference black box because a lot of good
Oh,
stuff in the box. Yeah, a lot of
oh, look at
information.
you. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Listen. I'm gonna have to say some of this stuff. Once again, hey, I could talk to you all night. Literally, the way that we have been going, I see that I could talk to you all night, but I want to be respectful of your time. And I thank you once again for taking the opportunity to come over here and share just a little bit of what you do and how you do it with me. And if you don't have anything else, I'm going to let you go and let my outro play. So if you want to disappear, you're more than welcome to. And I thank you again for stopping by and sharing about what you do with your music, Renee.
Thank you for having me. You have a never better day and a beautiful evening.
Thank you
All right.
for bye, Renee.
All right. Bye bye.
Sky,